Hi felters and welcome back. My name is Philippa if you don't know me. So we did Mr. Badger, that was the video before. Then we did Mr. Owl, and today we are going to do Miss Squirrel, who I think is really good. These are the other two that we're going to do after that. So this is today's one, Miss Squirrel. Let's get started. So this is part of my series of 5 woodland baubles, which are really simple and easy to make for you. Definitely beginners, you should really have a go. If you've never done needle felting, I really recommend it. And there's tons of videos in my playlists about things that will help you if you are a beginner. So we're going to take core wool for the inside. Again, as I said with Mr. Badger, I still think I would put a little bit of core wool in these just to save a bit of money on the nicer coloured wool on the outside. So I'm just rolling it up, and you can see I'm rolling it over and over on itself, and it almost is a little bit triangular, but in the end it all comes good. You don't have to worry about the vegetable matter too much. If the piece is quite big, I don't like it because it might break my needle, so I do pull out some of the bigger pieces and anything that would show on the top if you were using the wool for the finishing layer. So this is my pen, my clover pen with 240 triangulars. You can put 3 needles in it, but I find it's just a lot easier to penetrate the wool when it's got 2 in it. And as you can see, I just rolled it up quite tightly and felted the end of it, and it literally stayed, and I spent about 30 seconds just shaping it round. So I'm not going to show you all of the boring bits. I do speed up here and there, but there's plenty in this tutorial, and there's lots of measurements for you to help you recreate your own. So I'm taking, this is Sombrero carded wool from World of Wool. I will list everything in the description below. And it's a slither or slither if you want to say it properly. I was spreading it a little bit as I was putting it on just to get maximum coverage, and then I'm using my 4, it's actually you can put 8 needles in here, but I use 4 40 spirals in this multi-needle tool, and it just helps secure the wool and speed it up. So I spent about a minute going all the way round. So first measurements, just under 2.5. Remember, it's really fluffy at the moment. We haven't worked it over and firmed it up yet. Now I'm just having a look. There's 2 areas where I'm thinking that the wool direction might show. So I'm just preempting any marks, and I'm putting a little bit of wool on either end of those just to cover them up. Because it's carded wool, it does merge quite well. And then I take my clover pen and I'm going to work it in a lot finer detail all the way over. I don't do a single needle after this because it produces quite a nice smooth layer. This wool's really easy to work with. I absolutely love it. And the secret tip for you is I use this for my Highland cows. I get asked this all the time, what wool do I use? I use it for the face, the legs, so there you go, secret tip for watching this video. So you work all the way over the wool and it firms it up. So that's the finish top surface. So we're going to, just checking it for size, we're going to do the little white bit for the chest. So as you can see, these are super simple shapes. You could give them legs if you wanted to. So I take a bit of the, this is actually the core wool, or it might be a Corriedale bat, I'm not sure. And I'm just working through the middle of the shape. Don't worry about the edges first, just sort of get it in the right place. So you want it to come down to the bottom, and then the bit up under the neck is just sort of going to fade into a tip. But don't worry about the edges too much straight away. So we're just working it on, and then I'm going to gently, which you do have to be careful when you do this, is gently drag it round and shape it in the lines that you want it. Now I know my needles and I know that I'm fairly good, but you have to be very, very gentle. If you're not, and I do a little bit later on show you, I take a nice 32 needle, and that is less likely to break. When you drag the wool, you can break your needles, so do be careful. So I'm just very gently dragging it into a shape. So that's the top bit that's going to go under the neck, and then just to show you, you could do it a bit narrower, you could do it a bit wider. The measurements are completely up to you. I think you can sort of see how wide that is. But you do want the tummy to come sort of down to the bottom. So here I am with a big thicker needle, and I'm really dragging it along, and it just helps you get the wool in that direction and just get the edge shape. So I work all through the middle and then I go towards the edge afterwards. I had a little bit of a gap there, so the undercolour was showing through. And the reason why I do all the base colour and then add the white, it's just easier. You could have left the base white and left the tummy empty with the coloured wool, if you see what I mean, so you wouldn't have to use a second layer. But and I've just worked it all over with a fine needle. There we are, and it's nice and neat, and I do think you need to work that one over with a fine needle. So next we're going to do the head, and it's just under 2 inches. I didn't think it was in my head, so I measured it, and it definitely was. Now with the head, I don't put core wool on the inside because you'll be poking almost through and the white would come out. So I definitely just use the Sombrero colour all the way through the head. So I've rolled it up, and you're going to have one end is going to be flat, exactly like we've done with the badger. So the back end of it will be flat, and then the other end is going to come down to a point. So that's obviously a bit small because by the time you felt it, it will shrink down. When you felt things, they shrink down by at least a third. Let's say a quarter to a third, depending on how tightly you did them in the first place. So I've added another layer, and I'm just going to felt that together. So this is going to be the flat back of the head. So I'm felting it downwards, and then the nose, I'm just encouraging downwards, and I'm almost felting at sort of 45 degrees to create that slope. The direction in which you felt is the direction in which the wool is going to move together. So I'm just creating that slope, and I don't tend to felt the tip of the nose until right till the end. Actually, this squirrel doesn't have a pointy nose. The badger was a lot more pointier, so you don't have to panic too much about losing your nose by felting it in. So I'm just going to firm it up all the way over with the clover pen, and it does take a while, the head. It can be a little bit annoying, and we're going to have it quite narrow as well. So you see it's very squishy there. So I tend to felt either sides first, just to get that squishy shape, just to get that sort of slightly narrower head shape, and then felt the top and bottom and the nose last. But you guys probably know how I do things nowadays if you've seen a few of my videos. So here I am with the clover pen, and then I do go to the fine needle. I use a 40 triangular. The tips of my needles that you'll see just to the side are Fimo clay. Everyone keeps asking me, I must do a separate video on it, and I just shape it to my hand, cook it in the oven, and it's just a cheap and easy way to have a nice comfy holder for your needles. So I have firmed it all the way over, and you do have to because you're going to be putting eyes and the nose on, so you want it to have a sort of be semi-firm so that the eyes don't disappear in. And it was just under 2 inches in the end, which surprised me. I just thought it was smaller than that. So we're going to do the eyes and nose next, and take a little bit of black wool, roll it between your fingers just to speed up the process, and then I put it on the mat, and I will felt it together a little bit. Because it's so small, this is where you stab yourself, so use another needle just to hold it still on your mat, or you could put your finger guards on if you've got some still, and then that just keeps it still on your mat because it keeps moving around otherwise. And then there you go, so you just get the needle, another needle out, and then it just holds it there for you. This is what I do an awful lot of the time. It just saves my fingers. And then once it's brought together, you're going to roll it between your hands quite a bit, and it really firms it up for you. See, I'm really pressing it together, and then I drop it. But so there it is, and it's not very big at all. And then you're going to hold it on the end of the nose, and it is literally, I would say, smack in the middle of the nose, sort of up and down, left and right. I did it a little bit to one side there, so I had to move it over, and that's the beauty of felting. You can always pull it off and start again, but it is pretty much in the middle of the nose. Now, I haven't done a mouth detail for these. You could do a mouth detail. I've got a video on how to do animal faces, well, sheep and cows and things like that. So I'm felting round the back of it first, but I'm not too worried about felting this nose in. I don't need it sticking out that much. So I then went all through the middle, and just felted it down a little bit. You have to be light and gentle. You don't want the nose to sort of be pushed into the face. You still want the nose to be there on the end. So there we are. Next we're going to do the eyes. I just sort of mark it, see if I'm happy, get my awl, and then push it all in. These eyes are 3mm eyes. They are absolutely tiny. There they are. And these ones I think I probably just bought off Amazon. Cello Express are very good for eyes. There's lots of places on Etsy. And I would say the eyes are definitely almost 2/3 of the way back, almost 2/3 of the way up, if that's, helps you with sort of measurement wise. So just check and see if that's the right place. Take the owl and draw an imaginary line across. Check from all sides. Look from underneath, from the top. Are they level? And as I said in the badger one, I angle mine slightly backwards so that the eye posts don't meet in the middle. And then we're going to take a tiny bit of, I use a Bostik all-purpose glue. Just literally a tiny amount of glue is needed on the end. If you get too much glue, when you push the eye in, it sort of all comes out and ends up around on the wool. So you do not need much. And now we're going to do the little detail on the eye, which is a tiny bit of black, just to soften the eye. So I halved this for each eye because that was too much, and I will go in a little bit closer in a sec. And you just twist it a tiny bit, and then you very gently go around the eye, felting really quite close to it, very shallow stabs, very gentle, because you don't want it to sort of recede in. You want it to just sit on the surface there, and you just circle it around. So there we are. You can see I'm just sort of circling around. These eyes don't sort of scratch up very easily, so that's not a problem. And it just gives you a nice soft effect for the eye. There we go. So you can see the difference clearly there. It really makes a difference. And here we are just doing the second one, and you just tuck in all the threads. If you have wool, it's not threads, you tuck in all the wool. If you have any particularly wild pieces, just trim them off with scissors. And it's very easy to create a nice soft eye effect. So there we are. You can see how lightly I am tapping, very gentle. So there we go. So next up we're going to attach it to the body, and it sits at the top of that chest area. It doesn't poke out as much as the badger. The badger poked out a bit longer because he had a slightly longer head, I think, as well. And you're felting down through the very base of the head into the body. Just check he is straight at the front. And then you will also get quite a bit of stabs in at the back of the head, because that's going to be covered by the ears. So if you were to felt through the top of the head here, your needle marks would definitely show. So that's why you try and avoid that, and felt all around the bottom. And it does take, I'd say, a good 1.5 to 2 minutes going around, and then give them a little pull. Is it staying on? You don't want a wobbly head. And they're going to hang by their heads. Then I got the clover pen and did some really forceful jabs. So, right, ears. And I quite like the effect of the ears. So very simply, just take much less wool than that. So take a tiny amount of wool, and then I've made it quite short. So I layered it, and then I twisted it around my finger. So you get that nice little curve, and then felt that flat onto your mat. So felt it for about 30 seconds. You get that nice round bit, pull it up, felt the other side because you don't want it sticking to the mat. And this is it. Leave the bit you're holding, that's the fluffy bit, to help with attaching it. And that's the second ear I did. And really, they took me about 1.5 minutes. They do not take long at all. Just turn them over, felt, turn them over, felt. And then fold each one in half and felt through the little base line. You can see how far down it is, and you're leaving that fluffy bit. And then we're going to attach some fur wool onto the top of the ear to give it that fluffy look. So that's folded in half. And then take some very loose wool, and you're just going to felt this on to the back, and we're going to get that little fluffy ear effect. So you see how simple these, I quite like the squirrel. Definitely, I think the owl is my favourite. Mr. Fox is also particularly nice. And I think the owl is my favourite. I'd like to make the owl bigger. And so just take a single needle and felt it very loosely onto the back. Obviously you're not felting any of the top bit above the ear. And then I think I add a tiny bit more, and then I redefined the inside because some of it, the poking it, loosened it up. So I just redefined the inside a little bit more. And then I do trim a teeny weeny bit at the top just to give it that little sharp point. And then they're going to go right at the back of the head, facing forwards and nice and high, but you've got to have enough obviously to be able to attach. If you don't, just take some extra wool and place it around the back, and that will help with the attaching. So I'm trying to get comfy here. You have to hold it in the exact position you want it in, but as I said, if it's wrong, then you just pull it off and you can start again. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Looks right. And there's plenty of wool at the bottom there just to help attach it. And you felt all the way through that wool, and that neatens it up. And I also do a little bit of felting of the inside of the ear just to really make it secure. So there's one ear, and if you just pop the other ear on, there we go, 2 ears. And now what's missing? A massive tail. And I do this tail far too big. So maybe we'll do this one a little, you could do this one a little bit smaller. I quite like the tail, it's really simple to do. So I layer out the carded wool, and that's how we're going to do it, is we're going to fold it over basically. So just layer out, I do 4, which is too big. So 3 layers would probably be absolutely fine. I'm just sort of seeing how long I want it to be. I created these in summer, I think, so I'm trying to remember how I made them. And then I'm just going to felt a line down, see 4, it's too long. I'm going to felt a line down the middle. Now, just do this for a short while, you don't have to do it for too long, because you don't want it really well attached to your mat. So I felt it down the middle, and that's the line we're sort of going to attach to the back of the body. We're just going to add a little bit more of the carded wool on the line, just to sort of firm it up and give you something to hold the tail in place and to felt it onto the body. You could probably get away with not doing this, but I quite like it. So just to do a little line all the way up and through, and it just gives you something to wrap the wool around almost. If you wanted to, you could put a pipe cleaner through, and then you could get a real shape at the top of it, but it works quite well without it. So just loosely felt it through, and then we're going to peel it off the mat before it gets too attached. So you want to keep it together, so you put your hand under as you peel it, you really support it. You don't want this to sort of break apart when you pull it off the mat, so really I sort of scrape it off with my fingers. And then I've left all of this part in just so you can see how much fiddling I do. So that's how it's going to look eventually. And we're going to I'm just checking I've got this plenty long enough. So we're going to start at the base, almost a little bit underneath, and this does help stabilize it if you have them just standing on the side. So we're going to start it underneath, in the middle, at the back. So this is the only thing, is you've got to make sure it's really in the middle, which is a bit tricky to see because there's so much wool. So I'm just double checking that's definitely in the middle, and then you're going to felt all the way up. I'm just using the clover pen again. It just helps attach it nice and quickly. And then I work up around the ball, and then I did a little bit sort of up the back of the head, and in the end I did have to pull some of this off the top because it was too much. So you can see I'm just checking it's definitely in the middle, and I'm trying to concertina it down a bit there because there's too much of it. And you can see the ears, so I wouldn't attach it much past the middle of the head, I would say. So there we go, that's and easily attached, and like I said, I have left this all in so you can see all the fussing around I do with it. So you're going to pull it together at the back, and then you're going to kind of encourage it to go upwards. So first off, very lightly felt it together. You're not going to squash any of the air out of this, but you are going to get it to loosely join. You could use a top swirl, but you probably would have to put it around a pipe cleaner or something to be able to guide it in the direction you want it to be. So if you've got a top swirl hanging around and you wanted it in that colour, then go for it. But felting top swirl over the base of something, it just takes longer. It is possible to do. So I've laid it flat and I'm gently felting each side to itself so it stays back together behind the squirrel, and then I'm encouraging it upwards, and again, because I'm using the needle and I'm kind of dragging the wool, just be very careful. And then if you get any needle marks in there, you just gently sort of comb it a bit with your needle and that gets rid of them. But see how I'm guiding it upwards? And it just takes a short while and then it does come together. It starts to sort of stick together at the back there. And yeah, as you can see, I have a lot up the head there, but I'm just sort of encouraging it sort of to go upwards. Gentle combing. It still needs to go in a bit there. Still a bit too fluffy, but super quick way to create a bushy tail for your squirrel. So a little bit too long. Let's pull some off the top. It does actually, when you pull some off, it creates quite a nice end of the tail. Could even have pulled a bit more off. And you can see there's a nice sort of fluffy top. So you could, you know, at the end pull the last sort of top bit off just to create that nice bit of fluffiness. And then I try and felt it in and shape it around the back of the head in a minute, and just give that a little twizzly twirl. But there you go, there's a massive squirrel's tail for you. So next up, we're going to create this. I'm just going to give you a little bit of music. I bought that little round thing off Amazon, which I will try and link below, but just to show you how I created it if you wanted to do it yourself. So fairly simple to create. I just got my red lines. The first one I was trying to create a red line with a curve on it, so that didn't work. It's a bit like doing a pumpkin, the way you subdivide it up, and you could do your red lines a little bit thicker as well. So when you're attaching it, attach all round the base of it, all round the back, and then you could felt through the very white of the middle if you want to, but actually just felting all around the back seemed to work very well. And then I felted the red lines in a little bit just to give it a little bit more shape. So there we go, I have tried to recreate it myself. And last things last, we're just going to put the gold thread through. So you need a needle with a nice big eye hole, and as I said, you could do a ribbon. If you have got small needles, then the little beading wire I used in Mr. Owl would work really well. But I really like the gold actually for my tree. Tie a little knot, pull it tight, and then cut it off. You don't even need to do a double knot. And there we have Miss Squirrel. So there's Mr. Owl. These videos are up and are ready, and the next two will be up over the next few days. So the next one we're going to do is Miss Hare or Miss Rabbit. It could be a rabbit, but really it should be a hare to go with the woodland theme. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.